On July 17, 1981, 14-year-old Stacy Arras grabbed her camera, waved goodbye to her dad, and set off to take some pictures of a nearby lake. While on her way there, she encountered a man from her hiking group. He sat down to rest and watched as Stacy ventured off into the woods alone. That was the last time anyone ever saw her, ever again. This is the story of the disappearance of Stacy Arras. Hey everyone, just a quick note before we get into the video. If you're fascinated by missing persons cases or other mysterious topics, consider subscribing to my channel. Don't forget to comment down below with your thoughts and your theories, and be sure and hit the like button if you do enjoy the content. So with that out of the way, let's get into the disappearance of Stacy Arras. In July 1981, Stacy Arras was 14 years old. She lived in Saratoga, California with her mom. And like a typical teenager, she bristled against her parents. But this summer, she was going on an adventure with her dad. She and her father George were taking a week-long horseback riding trip through the high country in Yosemite National Park. They were part of a guided group with 6 other hikers, and they were heading for one of the High Sierra camps located within the area. There are in total 5 High Sierra camps. Each of these camps are groups of tent cabins, which are reachable only by foot or by mule. These unique camps appeal to many people, as they serve as an introduction to hiking in the backcountry. The camps vary in proximity to one another, but on average they are spaced about 6 to 10 miles apart. These hikes can take around 4 to 6 hours, and because of the relatively shorter hike and the provided amenities, this eliminates the need for carrying large packs, which makes it more friendly for novice backcountry hikers. The group reached the Sunrise High Sierra camp that Friday, July 17, 1981. Dusty and sweaty from their journey, everyone went inside their respective cabins to freshen up. Stacy did as well. She took a shower and changed her clothes. After she was done, she grabbed her camera and went outside to the group. She asked her father if he'd like to go explore the area with her, but her father was tired from the journey there, so he declined. He did tell her that if she planned to hike, that she might want to change back into her hiking boots instead of the flip-flops she was wearing. Stacy decided to change her footwear and then set off on the short hike by herself. While on this short hike up to a scenic ridge, she encountered a 77-year-old man who was a member of her pack group. They walked together on the trail for about 20 minutes before the man stopped and needed to rest. Stacy decided to press on toward a nearby lake. According to some reports, the rest of the group had been watching Stacy from above as they sat outside. They saw the elderly man walk with Stacy and then sit down to rest. And they saw Stacy, still feeling energetic, continuing to walk down the trail by herself. At one point, the trail went behind some trees which obscured the onlookers' view of her, and that was the last time that they saw Stacy Arras. After she had not returned for several minutes, the group began searching for Stacy. The elderly man encountered 3 hikers on the trail, coming from the direction where Stacy had headed, but they claimed to have not seen anyone matching her description. Despite an exhaustive search of the park, involving helicopters, dogs, and hundreds of volunteers, there was just no sign of Stacy. At just 14 years old, standing 5'5" and weighing around 115 pounds, Stacy had blonde hair and blue eyes and braces. On the day she vanished, Stacy was dressed in an off-white hooded pullover windbreaker, paired with a white jersey blouse. She also wore pull-on shorts with blue, maroon, and white stripes. On her feet, she wore gray hiking boots. She was last seen carrying binoculars, a small Olympus camera with a multicolored embroidered neck strap, and possibly had chewing gum and cigarettes in her pockets. Despite this information, the only trace ever found of her was the lens cap from her camera. This was discovered around the tree line area where she was last seen. In a determined effort, park officials searched through the wilderness permit system. They attempted to contact anyone who may have been in the 3 to 5 mile square section south of Tenaya Lake. Posters of the girl, along with a description of her appearance and the details of her disappearance, were plastered throughout the area, ensuring that hikers were aware that Stacy was missing. After 12 days, the Park Service reluctantly called off the search, but family members and friends continued their relentless search for another 2 weekends. The rugged terrain harbored countless nooks and crannies where someone could seek shelter from the nighttime temperatures, potentially complicating search efforts. Searchers speculated that Stacy could have panicked and fled the search area, but airborne searchers had scoured even the surrounding landscape. Months passed, and an early winter ran everyone off from the high country. That following spring, as the snow began to melt, many park rangers had hoped something would turn up. A piece of clothing, a camera, or any other personal item that could offer a clue to Stacy's whereabouts. But nothing ever did. Many sources say that Stacy was wanting to photograph a nearby lake, and a lot of articles mention that Sunrise Camp is south of Tenaya Lake. However, this lake is a 2.5-hour hike from the camp. According to the hiking party's account, it seems unlikely that this was the lake Stacy was observed heading toward. So it's possible she was heading to a group of much smaller lakes called the Sunrise Lakes. The closest one to her camp was Sunrise Lake number 3, which is located about 1.6 miles away from the camp. The route there is still about 45 minutes, and it also appears you go up an elevation and then down a hill, which could prevent onlookers from watching her make her way to the lake. There are also some areas that could be considered forested. This does seem like a lot for a 14-year-old girl to take on by herself, though, because in later stories, it's been recounted that she only passed the elderly man on her way to the lake, and that he was not accompanying her. And to further complicate the story, some people local to the area insist that the Sunrise Lakes don't even exist in the summertime. The lakes are usually dried out by then. These lakes do exist in the spring when the meadow gets flooded and large pools form in that location from all the melting snow. However, Stacy went missing in July, right in the middle of summer. A strange thing that should be noted is that missing persons author David Paulides had submitted a FOIA request for the case files for Stacy Arras. A transcript was posted of the conversation between Paulides and a Park Service special agent on the Web Sleuths forum. Paulides had made the request and then was contacted by the special agent, who then wanted to know the reason why Paulides wanted the report. The agent confirmed that it was still a missing persons case and not a criminal case, and was still considered open, although to his knowledge no one had looked at it in the past decades. Paulides said the agent told him, "You'll never see it," and then got off the phone. Why does it seem like the stories don't add up to the actual landscape of the area? Were observers really able to watch Stacy until she disappeared? This is a good question to have. This missing persons case occurred a long time ago, back in the 1980s. Reporting on information was a lot slower back then than what we're used to today. Perhaps some detail was lost in communication, a sort of telephone game effect. And maybe the group of adults didn't want to appear negligent at first, if they did in fact had actually allowed a 14-year-old girl to hike in the backcountry by herself. In a news article marking the 1-year anniversary of her disappearance, Stacy's mom shared that Stacy's father didn't tell her she was missing until 2 days had passed without her being seen. It appears that all group members were accounted for while Stacy was hiking to the lake. That would leave the possibility of a stranger or someone else already out there abducting Stacy. The park rangers checked all the permits of those in the area. Theoretically, someone without a permit could have been near the location. However, it seems that guides and rangers are diligent about reporting and evicting squatters. And while there does exist a remote chance that a stranger could have taken her, by the park special agent's own word to David Politis, this is considered a missing persons case and not a criminal case. Did an animal attack her? Depending on how far away and out of sight, this could be possible. According to the National Park Service, if you spot a bear inside of Yosemite National Park, it would probably be a black bear. Black bears may show dominance by bluff charging, especially when guarding food or cubs. However, actual attacks are rare, and no one has ever been killed or seriously injured by a black bear in Yosemite. Did Stacy Arras run away? In the one-year recap from a newspaper, there was a hint that Stacy might have been struggling in her home life, but there are no specific details given. It's only hinted at or implied. And because of that, it's hard to say why people would even come up with that theory. Perhaps it's only conjecture. Also recall that she was attempting to head out in flip-flops before her father convinced her to change into hiking boots. It would be hard to believe that she was planning to run away in the middle of the wilderness without any supplies or adequate footwear. It seems just so unreal to lose a human being, especially when compared to our social climate today. Social media and instant news reports make the world feel so small. We are at the mercy of information overload about one another, knowing way more than we care to at times. But it's actually just as fast as it was in 1981 when Stacy vanished. And nature is still just as cruel and mesmerizing and mysterious, especially in wild and remote places like beautiful Yosemite.